Hi everybody, it's Christina Mascari. I'm doing the ultimate DIY today. I'm gonna see if I can clean and stain my fence to protect it. I've never done anything like this before, so we're gonna see how much it costs, if it's actually doable for a DIYer. I'm gonna be trying out a couple of different sprayers for you and showing you all the money that I spent doing it. So let's jump into it. Head it in, we're gonna get the stain, we're gonna get the cleaner, we're gonna get a canister to put the cleaner on, and I also need to get a stain tip for my Wagner control sprayer. Two sections of my fence are already sealed because my neighbors did that when they put them up, so I need to match the color that they've already used. Since I have old and new fence to stain, I need to clean and prep the wood with this cleaner. It's also gonna brighten the old part of the fence. I'm also picking up this deck sprayer to adhere the cleaner to the fence. I'm going to be totaling up everything that I'm using, even including items that I have, and then comparing it to what it would cost you to hire a professional to do this at the end of the video. If you follow me on Instagram, you might know that we recently put in a pool this summer and we had to tear down part of our fence to do that. So I need to protect this new fence, but I also need to clean up this old fence and get it looking nice. So I'm gonna clean everything and put the stain on. I'm gonna be using two different sprayers today. I'm gonna be using my Flexio 3500, which you guys have seen me use on my furniture. So if you have one that you have used for furniture painting, you can use that to stain a fence. But I also have one that is gonna be a less harder on your body and I think make things go a little faster. It's an airless sprayer, so I'm going to be comparing those and letting you make the choice which one's going to work best for you. First things first though, before we can do any of the spraying and adding the stain, we're going to have to clean this fence. As you can see, I have old fence, I have new fence, and I'm not going to be able to get these to look exactly the same, but by using the cleaner and the brightener, it's going to help a lot before I put on the semi-transparent stain. You can also see here the existing fence that my neighbors put in and how I need to match that color as closely as I can. My fence cleaner isn't diluted, so it's already mixed and ready to go. So I'm gonna get it in my canister. When you're working with this stuff, you wanna wear gloves and goggles to protect yourself. Before I apply the cleaner, I'm wetting down all the grass underneath and any shrubbery that's touching the fence in order to protect it. This I'm not spraying as deeply as I'm spraying the stuff that's really weathered and old. This does have milling hazing on it, so you want to get that off, and this is going to clean off the dirt and stuff on it, but it doesn't need as much of that brightening effect that the older part of the fence is going to need. After about 20 minutes, I come back in and rinse this off. I'm using a pressure washer with a wood tip, but if you don't have a pressure washer, you can just use a regular hose. You need to let this dry completely to see the results, so I let mine set overnight. Dry time is going to depend on your conditions and the temperature when you're doing this. Okay, first round went pretty good. It lightened it up, but we're still not there yet, so I've learned some things. You want to wet the surface before you put this on, and it also helps to use like a deck brush to break up some of the grit and the grime, so we're going to do round two. I'm using a semi-transparent stain, so I don't need these woods to match completely. They're not going to because it's old wood and it's brand new wood, so I just need to get it as close as I can. My fence is clean and dry, so I'm ready to stain this thing and spray it. I'm using a new sprayer to me, so this is going to be just like you walking through this process on your own. I've watched a lot of videos. I will reference some of those down in the description box. Get your knowledge before you try to tackle it so you don't get frustrated, but I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. So I'm gonna prime it, get my stain in here, and start spraying. I'm using the Valspar semi-transparent exterior wood stain and sealer. I'll give you more information about this after I show you the sprayer. This is the Wagner Control Pro 130 with the T2 sprayer. This retails for $259. I followed Wagner's video on how to get this sprayer set up and it was super easy, so I'm going to link that down in the description box for you. You start off by removing the lid and then pressing the filter a couple of times, and then you attach the hose with a wrench. The next thing I need to do is prime the pump, so I'm just going to fill my basin with some water to do that, and then I'm going to set my dial to the priming option, and then I'm going to take this tube and stick it in my waste bucket. Then I'm gonna turn this on until the water runs through it. And just so you know, this is the actual first time I'm using this sprayer. Once that's done, I'm gonna pour the excess water into my waste bucket, and now I'm ready to add my stain and sealer. I bought this little spout to attach to my 5-gallon bucket, and it made it so easy. So if you get a big can like this, don't skip out on that. It's definitely worth it. And now I'm going to prime this just the way I did with the water. So I'm going to put my tube in my waste bucket. I'm going to have it in the prime position, and I'm going to turn it on until the sealer runs through. And then I'm going to shut this off, and I'm going to put the tube back in place. Now it's time to prime my gun, so I'm going to take this with the nozzle off and point it into my waste bucket, turn the knob into the sprayer position and turn it on and spray this into my bucket until the sealer starts coming out. Now that I know that's working, I'm going to take my nozzle and attach it to the top. Once I get the nozzle on, I'm going to insert my spray tip. I'm using a 311 spray tip because this is a semi-transparent sealer, and that's the one they recommend for this sealer. And now that I have everything put together, I'm going to put the lid on and go to a test board to try this out. And I wasn't lying when I said this is my first time using the sprayer because I made a huge mistake. I didn't turn it on. Oh, duh, we could turn it on. That's much better. It should be making that noise when you're spraying, so if it's not, you probably don't have it turned on. And as you can see, I can turn the nozzle horizontal or vertical depending on what spray pattern I'm doing. You want to make your motion going whichever way the tip is pointing, so I have my green tip all the way over to the side, so I'm able to spray horizontally here. That's the way that I want to do these boards because you want to go with the grain. Okay, I had to stop and give you my first impressions because getting it loaded is a little bit intimidated, but I got it. Like, no troubleshooting, got it on the first try. And this is really fun to spray. It's so light in my hand. And I just love the like airless spray that's coming out. You're not getting a lot of overspray. It's really controlled. And I'm feeling like after 4 panels, I'm already feeling really confident. So I'm excited. To complete a panel, I'm turning the nozzle so the green tip is on top, and that way I can do these vertical strokes on my vertical boards. And once I'm done framing this panel, I'm going to turn my sprayer back to the horizontal position and spray from side to side. You don't have to make any adjustments to get to spraying. There's only one setting on here. That's why you want to make sure that you have the correct tip for the job. When you're spraying, you want to be 12 inches from the surface of the fence, and you want to overlap your spray pattern by 50%. The size of my boards matches the spray pattern exactly, which made it really easy to do this overlapping. I just aimed the center of my spray in the very middle of the board, and then on my next pass, I aimed it at the bottom of the board. In total, it took me about 1 minute to do each panel. What is so great about this sprayer is it is super light in my hand because the hopper is separated from the hose, and with an extension cord and how long the hose is, you have a lot of room to do a lot of panels before you have to move the hopper. It's a good idea to have a rag on hand, and I wiped off the nozzle in between each panel. This sprayer was so satisfying to use. It made this go super fast, and with how light this was in my hand, I didn't fatigue and have to take any breaks at all. This is an airless sprayer that can be used with a lot of different unthinned materials and latex paints. It's really good for big projects like doing a fence or, staining a house, painting a house, sheds, garages, decks. It's going to be really great for those big projects. You can use it on large interior walls as well. I think I'd love to try it out on cabinets. I've seen other people use it for that. It features the high efficiency airless technology, so you get a professional finish and it has less overspray. But like I said, you do need to mask off areas that you do not want to get the sealer on. So here I'm just using my practice board so that I don't spray the house. I also masked off all my hinges and my hardware on the fence, as well as covering up any bushes and shrubs I don't want to get sprayed. It holds up to 1.5 gallons of material, so that makes it really easy to do big projects like this. And the hose that it comes with is 25 feet, so I had a lot of reach area. This puts on really good even coverage, and because of the sealer that I'm using, I'm only going to have to do 1 coat. It's really best to keep an eye on how much material you have in your basin and keep filling it up before it runs out, but here's what happens when it does. When You hear that sound? It means that you've run out of your paint or your sealer like me, so I had to refill it. And when you do this and you run it completely empty, you're gonna have to reprime it, but that was super easy to do. You don't have to do the water this time, just put your sealer in and turn the pump prime on and let it run until there's paint coming through that tube, and then put it back in and you're ready to go. And now let's talk about this Valspar stain and sealer that I'm using a little bit more. It is a all-weather defense, so it's going to protect my wood in just one coat. I'm using semi-transparent because I'm having to disguise some of that old damaged wood compared to this new wood, and I'm trying to match it to existing stain on the fencing on the back of my house. So you're getting more color payoff, but you can still see the grain. This is not a solid paint. It's still going to have those beautiful grains underneath. It protects against mold and mildew. It has UV defense in it to protect against fading. It's going to be rain ready in 4 hours, and it has easy cleanup with soap and water. And for a fence, using semi-transparent is going to give you longer protection for 6 years. One last thing I want to show you with this sprayer before I show you the other option of using the Wagner Flexio 3500 is what to do when this one gets clogged. This only happened to me one time, and you can see it happen right there. I knew right away that there was something stuck in the sprayer. This is really easy to fix. You just turn the spray tip backwards like this, and then you're going to shoot that into the waste bucket that you have that you're using for the priming. And as soon as the paint flows through there, that should take care of it. Turn the tip back forwards and you're ready to go. This is a great angle to see that 50% overlap that I'm doing. Right here, I'm aiming in between the boards, and then on my next pass, I'm aiming right in the middle of the board, and then again on my next pass, back to in between the boards. The cleanup on this machine was really easy. I'll link below the Wagner video that I followed to get everything cleaned up. I got the majority of the fence done yesterday with the Control Pro, and I loved it. It went so fast. It was actually really easy to use. Today I have one section left of this fence, and I wanted to give you a more affordable option from Wagner. This is my Flexio 3500. I use this to spray furniture a lot. It has another attachment for a fine finish, but it also has this larger container so you can do larger projects like this. So this is gonna have more versatility. It's a little bit more affordable. So if you're not doing a huge exterior project and you want to be able to use the sprayer again for lots of different things, this is going to be the good thing. What is going to be the downside of this? Obviously you can tell I have my container here. It is a lot smaller. I'm going to have to refill this quite often, and it's going to be a lot heavier in my hand because I have the paint canister on here as well as the motor. So this is going to be a little bit heavier, but again, a little bit more affordable, a little bit more accessible. So let's see how this does on the fence. This sprayer retails for $190, so there is a little bit of cost savings compared to the other sprayer I showed you. I always strain my material when I am feeding it into the hopper. This one obviously is not going to hold as much sealer as the previous sprayer I was using that holds 1.5 gallons. This one is only going to hold 1.5 quarts at a time. This is the eye spray nozzle, and it's going to be perfect for painting this fence, but this sprayer also comes with a detail finish nozzle that I use a lot for furniture to get a fine finish. As always, I'm going to take this to a practice board and get my settings all dialed in. There are a lot more settings on this sprayer, so it's important to test this out. It has that 2 options for which way you want your spray pattern going. So if you're going up and down, you just want the nozzle pointing up and down like this. And if you turn it sideways like this, then you can go horizontal in your spray pattern. For this particular semi-transparent stain and sealer, I found the best settings for me was to have the variable speed or the airflow set at a 5, and then to have my material flow control right here set to a 3. And I have this spray pattern set to the widest setting. While I'm very comfortable using the sprayer, I actually have only used this particular nozzle one time. I'm usually using that fine detail nozzle for my furniture projects. So I was a little intimidated putting this nozzle on, thinking it was going to be a lot different, but the process was actually really easy. With this sprayer, you only want to be 6 to 8 inches away from the surface that you're spraying, and your overlap is only going to be 30%. Getting this one set up, I think, is a lot easier than the Control Pro, but as you can see, I'm having to hold and balance it with my other hand, and I'm definitely getting a lot more fatigued than I did with the other sprayer. Depending how much fence you have to cover, you really want to take that into account when you're picking which sprayer you want to use. I had so much fun doing this with the Control Pro. I thought that this wasn't going to be as satisfying, but this sprayer does a really great job with fences too. It's just going to be a personal preference of which one you want to use. My personal preference, if I didn't own a sprayer at all and I had the task of doing a fence in front of me or a large outdoor project, I would definitely go with the Control Pro 130. It just was so much fun to use and it made it go really fast, and I didn't have any arm fatigue like I did with this one. Now let's go over the numbers like I promised you at the beginning of the video. How much would this have cost me if I hired it out for someone else to do? Well, the easy way to do this is measure how much square footage you have of fence. The amount of fence that I had to refinish ended up totaling at 1,308 square feet. And in my area, the going rate per square foot is $1.50 to $2.60. And that includes everything from cleaning it to the materials to the labor. A pretty good quote for how much this would cost to refinish out of pocket would be about $2,000 to $3,500. Now let's talk about how much money it cost me to do this project. In total, the product that I bought was $450. That included 7 gallons of stain and sealer, 6 gallons of the cleaner, a deck brush, and cleaner sprayer. That doesn't include items that I already had on hand, so you need to factor those in. I had my mask, painter's tape, a drop cloth, and rags already on hand. And I also already own the pressure washer, but you can just use a regular hose and that's not necessary. So now the total cost using the Wagner Control Pro 30 and the extra tip that I had to buy would equal $739. So my total savings using the Wagner Control Pro 130 would be around $2,700. The total cost using the Flexio 3500 would end up being $640, which would give me a savings of an extra $100, equaling $2,800. Now that is on the higher end, so you could only be saving around $1,200 or $1,300 if you can get a really good deal on the job. But for 2 days of work for me, I definitely think the savings was worth it. And I know I do a lot of projects on here, but I am so proud of this one. I was so intimidated by this huge fence, and I was thinking when I started, what did I get myself into? But now I get to come out here every day and just look at how beautiful it turned out. And not only does the color look great, but my wood is going to be protected for the next 6 to 8 years. So have I convinced you that you can tackle this project on your own? Let me know down in the comments if you plan on trying it out. Ask me any questions that you have. I will be 100% honest with you. This was definitely a challenge, but it was so much easier than I thought, and I think anybody can do it. If you like DIYs and home decor and all things home, make sure you subscribe before you leave this channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you guys in my next one.